I decided to do a voiceover tutorial today because there's a lot of people in my house and not a lot of time to film. So I'm going to start off with my base today. I'm using the Tarte Base Tape Primer. I am just pressing this into the skin. I actually really like this primer. It's becoming a favorite of mine, and I just really like the way it preps my face. On to foundation. So today I'm going to be using the Becca 24-hour Ultimate Coverage Foundation. I'm in the shade Linen, and pretty much before I go in with my foundation sponge, instead of just putting it right onto the sponge, I like to dot it on my face like this, just so I can start working it into the skin since it is pretty full coverage, and just so I don't over apply with a sponge, which I tend to do. I learned this method from Mariah Leonard here on YouTube, and I have been using it ever since I saw her do it, and honestly, it just gave a flawless coverage. And as you can see, because I did that, it just really works itself out. There's not a lot of struggle with this foundation. It's really easy, it blends out really well, it sits really nicely on the face. It's becoming a favorite of mine as well, and in the beginning I really didn't like this, but I really learned how to work with it to make it work for me, and definitely shearing it out this way is the best for me since it is very full coverage. And then I'm going in with concealer. I'm using the Catrice Liquid Camouflage Concealer. I'm in the shade Porcelain. This isn't much lighter than my skin tone. I like to use a concealer that's pretty close to my own skin tone. I'm not one for the highlighted look. So this one's just slightly lighter, I would say, than my skin tone. I really love it though. It is my favorite concealer of all time. I've tried a whole bunch and I just keep going back to this one. And it's $5. Then I'm just setting this down with a little bit of powder. I'm using this powder from Ciate. It's this coconut setting powder, and I'm only setting the top part of my lids because I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I had a few different ideas for this look, and I thought about cutting some of that out with concealer, so I wanted to make sure that it was as easy to do as possible. Here I am listening to some Hayley Williams. And I'm listening to Cinnamon, by the way. So now I'm pulling out this old Jaded palette. This is my palette for the next 2 weeks that I'll be using. Clearly feeling myself from the music. So I'm going to start with the shade Sapphire, and I'm taking that on a very small Luxie brush, and I'm first starting by pressing this into the inner corner of my lid. I'm using this shade to kind of mark out and trace out where I want the shape of this to go, as well as make this a base for the rest of it. So here I'm with very little product, I'm just tracing out where I want the look to go, and then I'm going back in a few times and building it up. I'm not taking a lot of product on the brush to start with. I wanted to build it up as it goes because I felt that would be an easier way to tackle this, so I didn't have to use so much concealer to clean up later. Then I'm going in with the shade Turquoise on a bigger, fluffier Luxie brush, and I'm just placing this in the middle of my lid. I'm not trying at this point to mix the two shades together yet. I'm just really getting this shade down. So this is going to the middle of the lid, and then I'm going to start winging this up to create the shape that I had in my mind. And then I'm going back in with the first shade, Sapphire, and I'm just mixing these two together. I'm blending them into each other. Next, I'm going into the shade Citrine. I love this shade, and I'm putting it on the very outer corner of my eye and following the shape that I started with, Turquoise. So this one I wanted to be less pigmented. I kind of wanted the outside to flare out and get a little bit softer. But I also wanted to make kind of an O shape. And then I'm just going back in with Turquoise and just blending those two shades together as well to make a more seamless blend in all of this. Here I took some concealer and a very, very small brush, and I decided to clean up where I had messed up because obviously the brushes I was using was not super precise. And I wanted to get this as precise as possible, so I'm just cleaning up here with a little bit of concealer. I'm going in with this small brush, and then I kind of blend it out with a slightly bigger brush, but I don't show that bit. And here's where I clean up my mistake. I made this a little bit too sharp up. It wasn't equal to the other side, so I fixed it here. Onto the lower lash line, I am using the shade Sapphire and Turquoise and Citrine as the top, and I'm going to kind of mirror what I did on the top for the bottom. So I'm going to trace out this kind of circle shape with Sapphire and taking very little bit of product at a time on a very small pencil brush here. Then of course I'm going in with Turquoise and just repeating what I did on the top on the bottom here, and on my, what is that, left eye, you can see that I have it already done. So I'm just continuing this little circle and bringing it up to be ready for Citrine. Last is Citrine. I had a little bit of trouble with this eye because I have allergies right now, so the corner of my eye was really watering, so that's why I look like I'm like nervous to put down eyeshadow. It's just because I was trying to make my eye a little bit drier and to make sure I get the shape without having any weird color exchanges from a damp brush or a damp shade. Then I'm taking the Colourpop Creme Gel Liner in the shade Teaspoon and sticking that in the waterline. And then with my favorite mascara, I'm going in with two coats. This is the first coat and then I'll let it dry, but this is the Lashtopia mascara. And I just really think this separates my lashes, lengthens them, volumizes them. It does everything I need. It is so good. And this does not smudge, does not flake, does not do anything. It is perfect. And I will end up doing two coats of this mascara. While I wait for that to dry, I moved on to the face. So I'm trying out for the first time this Cover FX Monochrome Bronzer Duo in the shade Sun-Kissed Bronze. And I'm actually taking it on a blush brush today because all of my bronzer brushes are dirty. But I actually really liked how this looked using this type of brush. I think I'll continue to use it like this. It is really nice, it is really buildable, and the shimmery side isn't too intense. So I loved mixing them and just giving a nice bronze to my face. I put on a little bit more bronzer than I'm used to because the eyes were so intense I didn't want my face to look completely colorless. Then for blush, I'm going in with this blush from MAC. This is Into Eternity. This is an Electric Wonder Iridescent Powder. This was a limited edition blush, and it's honestly one of my favorites. It also has a bit of shimmer in it and a bit of color. And at first I thought, I want to be really blushed. So I put on a lot of blush, but then I realized I was being dramatic and I toned it down a bit with my sponge. For highlight, I'm going in with the Colourpop On The Cusp highlight. It's a Super Shock Cheek from the collaboration with Kathleen Lights. It is one of my favorite highlights and just so stunning. Then last we have lips, and I'm trying out this from NYX. This is the Filler Instant. I got this sent to me from Influencer, and this is in the shade Beach Casual. It's like a lip plumper, but it doesn't feel like a lip plumper, and it's in a solid stick form. I actually really like this, and I really like the color. So yeah, I was pretty happy with how it turned out. So these are the eyes with my 2 coats of mascara, and I loved this. It's totally out of the box for me, but I really went outside of my comfort zone, thank you to the wine, and I really ended up liking the look that I created. So thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in my next video.